Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are going to completely flip the script on how you view loss. Instead of just gritting our teeth and enduring the heavy burden of pain, we're going to look at how to actually extract profound, life-altering wisdom from our deepest moments of change. Let's get right into it. So think about the word grief. Usually, right off the bat, we think of someone passing away, right? But what if we expand that definition? What if grief is actually any major shift in circumstance that forces us to leave an old version of ourselves behind? We're talking about the really complex process of shedding a past identity. Whether that's the end of a relationship, a sudden decline in health, or just a radical shift in your daily reality, the grief is 100% real, simply because the person you used to be is no longer the person you are now. Section 1, the eye of the storm, finding peace in turmoil. You know, when you're right in the middle of the absolute hell of a storm, it's virtually impossible to see a way out. But there is a peaceful space hidden deep within you. It's like the eye of a hurricane. If you can tune into that space, grace can actually be found. The sky might be weeping right now, and yeah, things are incredibly tough, but if you just hold on, out of the blue comes the graceful emergence of your own personal spring. You just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other through the storm. And hey, if you're the one supporting someone else through their storm, you absolutely cannot rush them to the finish line. Pushing someone to just be positive right out of the gate basically sends a giant signal that their discomfort is unwelcome. You know the saying, hurt people, hurt people? Well, it's totally true here. If you haven't dealt with your own emotional baggage first, you run the risk of projecting your own unresolved stuff onto the very person you're trying to help. Honestly, sometimes the absolute best support is just sitting with them, listening, and validating their reality without constantly trying to rush their emergence. Section 2, letting go of the past, the futility of fixing. What's really fascinating here is that we need a radical shift in our mindset. We've got to drop the word fixing entirely when we talk about human beings. I mean, we aren't broken machines that need repair, right? If you're constantly agonizing over a past that just isn't there anymore, you're literally blinding yourself to right now. The past's only real gift is the wisdom we can squeeze out of it to craft a better experience for this exact current moment. Let's build on that. Think about one of the most precious resources you have, your energy. When you resist reality, when you fight tooth and nail against what already is, or desperately try to hold on to a past that's gone, you are severely draining your life force. It is exhausting. But the absolute second you accept reality, boom. You unlock and release all of that pent-up energy. And once that energy is freed up, it is so much better spent resourcing your future and actively shaping a life that actually serves you going forward. To put this into perspective, let's look at a story about a married couple who had reached an absolute breaking point. They were 100% determined to separate. Done. But a mediator stepped in and used their pain as a totally different kind of tool. First, they each wrote down all their specific complaints. Standard stuff, right? But then, and this is the crucial part, they were tasked to write down exactly what they would miss about each other if they truly walked away. By shifting their focus away from trying to fix a broken past, and instead honestly evaluating the reality of their potential loss, they actually exposed a much deeper love. They didn't just end their conflict. They literally used the total breakdown of their marriage to build a stronger, much wiser foundation. Section 3, finding the painful blessing. Now, before we even touch on the idea of blessings, we have got to validate one massive truth. The pain is physiological, and it is incredibly real. When grief hits, it absolutely arrests your attention. It captures you until it feels like it's literally all there is in the world. You cannot, I repeat, cannot coach someone who is actively in survival mode. But there is a promise in the pain. When it's just a little less raw, when that vice grip loosens even slightly, that is when you can begin to catch a glimpse of the hidden blessings wrapped up inside the loss. And this timeline perfectly visualizes that natural evolution of grief. On day 1, the pain completely arrests your attention. It feels like the only reality, physically shoving your body into survival mode. But as weeks and months roll by, time kind of organically dilutes that rawness. The pain eventually gives way to perspective. It shows us the true depth of our connection to what we lost, and eventually, sometimes years later, it leads to genuine, real gratitude for the wisdom we gained. Let's look at a really profound, real-world example from our source. This is Claudette, a stroke survivor. In the early days after her stroke, she was entirely, understandably focused on the physical autonomy and independence she had lost. But eventually she realized that desperately holding on to a past that was no longer there was actively blocking her everyday joy. Her massive turning point? Total acceptance. She had to fully embrace the fact that she simply could not go back to how things were before the stroke. And by leaning into that total radical acceptance, Claudette found such profound personal evolution that she arrived at this astonishing conclusion. She actually stated that having the stroke was not a bad thing because it changed her in so many incredible ways for the better. I mean, if you told someone on day one that a severe stroke could hold a blessing, they'd look at you like you were crazy, right? But through the grueling journey of acceptance, Claudette didn't just manage her pain, she transformed it into purpose. And now, she uses her energy and her experience to support other stroke survivors. Talk about a game changer. Section 4. Walking the pathway forward. The journey of grief isn't a single event. It's a continuous, unfolding pathway. It's full of ambiguity, constantly shifting from uncertainty to certainty. But here is the secret. The ultimate reward isn't found by just escaping the pain. No, the real reward is the beautiful lesson found in every single step. The maturity, the insights you gather along the way, that's exactly what makes the path worth traveling in the first place. So how do we actually walk forward and embrace this new reality? Well, we have to practice some deep forgiveness. We've got to recognize that we made choices in the past based entirely on the level of understanding we had at that specific time. Beating yourself up over missed opportunities, honestly, it's just a massive waste of your resourcing energy. The source shares this really powerful anecdote about forgiving parents who acted in ways that hurt us, recognizing that they were basically just acting on the cultural norms and the limited knowledge they had back then. You have to take what you know now and apply that brand new wisdom to your present challenges. Now, if you ever feel completely stuck in your grief, here's a really powerful technique to access some hidden wisdom. Ask yourself, what would the departed loved one want for you right now? Often, in our grief, we kind of tell ourselves this story that moving on is some sort of betrayal. But think about it. If they truly loved and cared for you, they would absolutely want you to find happiness. They wouldn't want you to pitch a permanent tent in the land of grief, right? They'd want you to use it as a rock-solid foundation to build a skyscraper for your future. And that brings us to the end of this explainer. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. As we've seen today, grief is not meant to be a permanent residence. It's a foundational teacher. It is meant to be passed through, learned from, and eventually integrated into a much stronger, more resilient version of yourself. So the ultimate question I have for you is this. How will you use the wisdom extracted from your deepest pain to purposefully and gracefully craft the rest of your life?